Hi everyone. So this is me in a garden on a weekend, reading a book. Right, so very chill. And here's the cognitive channel between the book and my brain. As you can see, there's a clear bandwidth, and this is where the bandwidth between the cognitive load and the brain is at its highest. So here's someone on the train that I took a photograph of without permission. So he's looking at his phone, and while looking at his phone, he might have been inspired to catch a new Star Wars movie that's coming out soon, right? So he might want to do it on the weekend, on a specific date that the movie is launching. So then he goes about setting a reminder, because he wouldn't want to do it right then. And he doesn't want to remember the launch date. So this is how the cognitive channel looks like. On your left is the screen of the phone, and on your right is the brain. Right, in the train, the cognitive resistances and friction is higher, and therefore the bandwidth is lower. Right? So there are the noises and there are the distraction, right? So while thinking about the next Star Wars movie, he might have recollected his experience with the previous Star Wars movie, and the cycle goes on, right? And then, they might be remembering one of the characters in it, and, on and on. So sometimes this resistance may cause partial absorption of the cognitive load, or even worse, total loss of intention. So comparing this situation and the situation of myself reading the book, right, you'll find that this is actually a stressful situation. Stress is introduced subconsciously into that act itself. So in our lives, there are many of these subconsciously stressful situations that can be avoided electronically. Setting reminder is just one of the examples. So expenses claim, online bills, etc., right? So I set about thinking, could there be a better way of interacting with computers where we get to a point where we can be continuously enlightened rather than continuously torturing ourselves with this repetitive chore? Computers can be the bicycle of our mind, borrowing from Steve Jobs. So I set about delegating a lot of my chores into a node process that I named Jodo. So Jodo is a NPM package that you can install, and it helps you absorb repetitive electronic duties. So the first thing that we need to know is, when dealing with Jodo, is to have a list of these duties. So I thought it would be nice to have it centralized so that we know the number of duties that Jodo is handling. It's much clearer that way, right? So I set about doing this, and I chose JSON as the definition structure for this. And I use this package called JSConf, which allows me to get comments within the text definition itself. So the comments are very helpful, as you can see. Otherwise, it seems a bit machinish, right? So once we have that list, I set about constructing the duties itself. So the first duty that Jodo has to do for me, as something that I delegate it to, is to tell me that it's alive. Because I wouldn't want a process that I delegate duties to die off and I don't know it, and my bills doesn't get paid, or my electronic chores doesn't get done, right? So the first base case is to tell me that I'm alive, right? That he's alive. It is alive. Sorry. Okay. So any duties can be packaged as and shared publicly on NPM, or it could be ran locally as with a local install flag set to true. So what Jodo does is, it gets the list that we saw previously, It runs through it, and for each item in the array, it actually installs the package from npm via the npmi package that's also from JSON, also from npm. So once it's installed the duty, it actually forks a duty process as a child process. And it starts sending duty calls to the child process duty. So this duty call can be scheduled with this definition here. It's a cron expression. Or a duty can be called from another duty. This is useful, and we'll see very soon. So duties can have parameters as well, right? So within this duty definition, I've included 5 parameters to a duty called tail and mail. So this duty is essentially about tailing that log file. So this closes the loop of Jodo telling me it's alive, but it's actually logging it to a log file, right? So, but now I need it to actually tell me, and the interface between me and Jodo can be, a mail from Jodo. So what we have here is tail this log file, look out for this string, and if you find it, send it to me, email. So this is the implementation of the duty. So the idea is that all of these duties can be assembled with npm packages, and npm, as we know it, has so many features and functionalities, right? So these features and functionalities, as Chen Jie was saying earlier, are very capable. We could use Nightmare, we could use all sorts of, here I used tail, to do all of these electronic chores, and it doesn't have to be very complex. You just need to know how to string together a couple of npm packages, pass it some parameters, and that's it. So these are some of the ideas that I'm currently working on. Bash profile adding, prices downloading, remembering nuggets of information, commit, doing something when I commit, easier way to deal with vault, and check links on my web page for links that are no longer valid. So these are some of the duties that if I do not delegate to Jodo, I will have to do, and it's again, it's a repetitive torture because it doesn't seem like a creative thing that I want to deal with on my computer. So these are simple duties. So I thought there might be an opportunity to add slightly more complex duties that make Jodo more useful. So we could add a duty that gives me a Vopal interface like this that deals with duties. So it's like a meta thing. So or I could add a bot that deals with Jodo as well. So there are areas, there are automation tools like Grunt and Gulp that's similar in terms of automation, right? It does automation as well. But I thought there is another room for something like Jodo because the domain is personal automation. Also, there is another tool called PM2 that does process handling, but it doesn't do that ecosystem of duties that we can actually create. So there are a few more areas that I'm currently looking at, making duties easier to create, share, find, install, and configure. So I've written up some documentation here if you want to check it out. The current state is available on, everything is available on GitHub, and that's it. Life can be better with JavaScript. Thank you.